Welcome to Mental Health Monday. My name is Mick Coyle. Coming up on the programme this week,
to see people at the beginning when they come through and they're literally on the floor, and to be able to offer that help and support. There's that real community family sort of feel to it.
It's just recognition to all the volunteers, many of whom, similar to the three of us as co-founders, all share a lived experience of loss to suicide.
So we're hoping that maybe some companies, even individuals, if they wish to donate or come on board, then the likes of the Queen's Award give us more credibility to them and help us out, because we do need funding for the future.
And I'll be reminding you how you can make connections with mental health organisations within your community. It's Mental Health Monday. Mental Health Monday returns. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for the download today, and what brilliant guests we've got on the programme today. And a bit of a monumental moment as well. I know we had episode 200 a month or so ago, but actually this felt just as monumental in that for the first time in forever, and I'm saying forever, I mean the 17th of March 2020, we are actually out and about recording Mental Health Monday. I actually got to sit in a room with people and actually interview them, just like I had done for years and years and years, and it felt so strange to do it again. So I got my kit, I got my microphone, I put it on the end of a very long stick so I could be more than 2 meters away, and I did this week's episode of Mental Health Monday, which you will hear in just a few minutes' time. As ever, always lively on the Facebook group. Just search for Mental Health Monday. Let us know as well that you're listening to Mental Health Monday by dropping us a tweet. You can hashtag Mental Health Monday. You can tag me into that on Twitter at Mr. Mick Coyle, or like I say, go onto the Facebook group as well with your thoughts and your comments. Always happy to hear feedback as well. Got loads of different ideas for different projects to start working on, and I know you guys out there have always got loads of fascinating things going on within your own lives. If you're just listening to the podcast, we've got more great conversations on the way. If you work for an organisation or within the mental health field, let us know what you're up to. We could, of course, feature in an edition of Mental Health Monday itself, or I can give it a mention on the social media or in the Facebook group as well. Just going to mention as well, Tom Davis interviewed me for the Proper Mental podcast. Now, that podcast should be available now. I had a good old conversation with Tom, talking about the show, where it's come from, where it's going, and sort of what I've learned in the time doing the show as well. So it was great to sit down with Tom. Normally I'm the one asking the questions, so if I've not done myself any justice answering them, forgive me. It was, not something I do very, very often, because it's normally me at the other side of the microphone. But thanks to Tom, good luck with his own podcast as well, the Proper Mental podcast. If I get the link to that, I'll put it on the Facebook group so people can check that out as well. They've had loads of great guests as well. It's not just me. You've had enough of me for now, I can tell. So we're going to meet our guests. Now, they are back on the programme. The first time we met them, they were setting up the centre that they have made their home and have made a huge success of as well. We're talking about Joe and Agnes Williams and Kathy Devlin from Paul's Place. Now, Suicide Bereavement Service is an incredible thing, based in Clubmoor but operating across the whole of Merseyside. For me, the sort of service that should be operating nationally. It's a model which I think should work wherever anyone is bereaved by suicide. I caught up with them again, I'm going to say the back end of 2019, when they secured funding for their service from the National Lottery. So it's not necessarily a completion of the trilogy, but I was back again for the first in real life Mental Health Monday of 2021 after they found out that they had won an incredible national award. They got a royal seal of approval. We'll hear from Kathy, we'll hear from Joe. First is Agnes to explain.
So we're delighted to be able to announce that we have been awarded the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service for our Paul's Place programme. It's just recognition to all the volunteers, many of whom, similar to the three of us as co-founders, all share a lived experience of loss to suicide. So when you think about how they've basically done, or they've travelled that journey where they've come through us as needing support for their loss, have been able to then go on to reach that point where they're able to, and very much want to, give something back for the help and support they've received. that they in turn then volunteer for us in many ways, fundraising, you know, all different aspects that people do. It's just incredible, and you know, without them to back us in the work that we do here, we would struggle, wouldn't we? You know, so fair play to them. Yeah, basically, yeah, to Kathy, you know, who leads us, and our other 3 co-founders, but there is so much work that goes on here. Yeah, so absolutely delighted to be sharing that news with everybody today.
It's an incredible testament to the work you've done in such a short space of time. And Joe, I remember sitting in the studio and listening to your plans and thinking, what a brilliant idea, what a great service. Won't that be a brilliant sort of boost to the community and people right across the region? It's proved itself to be the case in a very short space of time as well. But to receive this sort of commendation in that short space of time, this is, they call it the MBE, don't they, of voluntary groups, but let's call it the Oscars. You know, to be right up there and to deliver and to be recognised must be something you're very proud of.
Extremely proud. As you say, in such a short time, we're not even 4 years with the Pulse Place project. We're absolutely delighted to receive this. As you say, it's justification that we're doing things right. You know, it's just wonderful.
Let's bring Kathy into the conversation now. Kathy, so much of the sort of the plan around Paul's Place was based around the 2 Pauls and obviously your lived experience as well. But I guess you bring your own story plus your professional sort of identity to the table with this. But so much of what you've done, as Agnes suggested, is shaped by those around who've come into the family, if you like. What's that experience been like in that period of time?
It's been unbelievable, Mick. We're just absolutely delighted to be recognised in this way. But to see people at the beginning when they come through and they're literally on the floor, you know, and to be able to offer that help and support, and like Agnes says, to see them come back then and wanting to be involved, and it is like a family, you know, there's that real community family sort of feel to it. So to see somebody who could literally speak when they came through the door to now, you know, having a laugh, having a little joke and being involved with other people who get where they're coming from, it's absolutely fantastic.
Now, in terms of the polls, and we're sitting in front of the mural in the recreation room that you have here, Agnes, in terms of the work that you do here, we'll go on to explain some more about what that is. Is Paul, your Paul, is he very much at the forefront of your thoughts every time you step in the door? And has that always been the case? So do you ever need to sort of remind yourself of how far you've come, given your own personal story around it?
Yeah, I think for me, very much to the forefront of everything we do, and I think the one thing that we all say together, as fantastic as this news is, to be telling people, sharing that with people today, you'd give it all up, wouldn't you, in a heartbeat, to have those, you know, back in your life again. What can I say? I interpret it as this is the next best thing. You know, the work that that's being done in their memory, and in helping other people who are unfortunate enough to find themselves in this position. I just think that we always tend to say, when we're in this room in particular, we always have a little look up at that mural and say, you know, oh, these 2 are still working, you know, from a higher level, aren't they? You know, but they've certainly got a finger in the pie. When things like this happen, you know, we say, well, you know, this is down to them, isn't it? You know, it comes with their blessing, I'm sure. For me, working here, I always interpret it as I've come full circle, because, you know, sharing our story, which I know we've done before with you, Mick, is that Paul's Place didn't exist when we lost our Paul. Beacon Council and Trust, however, did. You know, all those sort of connections that we made when our daughter Claire contacted Kathy happened to be, you know, her brother's anniversary 23 years earlier to suicide. So all those little connections, and then how Kathy sort of offered the help and support freely to Joe and I, to then go on to form Paul's Place. I just think I'm so thankful that they were here for us. We've said it before, and I'll always say, you know, it was our lifeline. I see now that lifeline being offered out to so many more people, and it's great that we're able to do that. You know, we still say, as far as we're aware, we are the only organisation that is offering this kind of service. throughout the country, certainly throughout the whole of the Northwest, but there's so much a need for there to be a Paul's Place. We'd like to see a Paul's Place in every city in the UK. It's so needed, so necessary.
I think as well, in terms of the narrative around mental health and suicide, often there's talk of preventative measures, of course, absolutely, but then a focus around who to call it in an absolute emergency. And it's quite right that's there. But it would be totally wrong, wouldn't it, to then say, well, if somebody can't be helped, then that's the end of the story there. Because actually, as you guys have proved, there is so much need beyond that. The need to continue the conversations, to provide bereavement counselling, general counselling, that sense of family and support for those who are left behind by suicide. For people who think that suicide is an end point, it's actually very much a start point, if you like, Joe, for other people and for other families.
That's right. Unfortunately, it's the start of a journey for people who find themselves in our position. The statistics are that people who find them, have lost someone to suicide, are up to 300% more likely to attempt or complete suicide themselves. So Paul's Place, in essence, it's suicide prevention for the next generation. So it is a much needed service.
We can't underestimate that at all, can we, Kathy? And when we talk about people who are at risk of suicide, right up there, and we mean right up there, are those who've been bereaved by suicide. So it absolutely makes common sense, doesn't it? Yeah. That if there is a suicide within a family environment, a work environment, within a group of friends, that people instantly know where to get that support, because it's then preventative action, and we're back into that cycle, aren't we?
Absolutely. As Joe says, those statistics, we know that people who are bereaved by suicide are a vulnerable group. So, it makes sense that there is a service there to provide, for people. And I always say when I do the assessments, I can't tell you that after 20 sessions you'll go skipping out of the door and everything will be fine. What I can tell you is we're there, to hold your hand. And it's not about getting over it. You're never going to get over it. You can't get round it or under it. You've got to journey through it, and that's what we're here for, to help you through that journey, because we've been through it ourselves.
And with that in mind, Agnes, I guess people look for a quick fix, don't they? But if you're in a period of grief, I think a lot of people they almost find it hard to imagine a way out of that grief, because it's such a difficult and raw set of emotions. With that in mind, the service that you obviously offer holds people's hands and guides people through. But you mentioned as well the volunteers. Just tell us about what they bring and how they sort of guide people through, particularly given the fact that they've had lived experience themselves and they've maybe sat in the same seat, if you like, as those who are stepping in the door possibly for the first time.
Yeah, obviously back in the day when we were doing face-to-face, meetings here in this little group room, you would see, and it's no more than Kathy said about, when people sort of make that first visit to us and they walk through the door, we all know how much it takes for them to actually do that. To pick up the phone when something like this has happened to you is enough, and then to summon up, enough oomph to make the visits. And then we've seen it, we've experienced it, where people have sort of to and fro in the hallway there, wanting to come in, but feeling I can't sort of broach that, I can't get across that, that threshold and go into that room, because they don't know what to expect. And the one thing that we see, and I talk for Joe and I, because we sort of take the Tuesday morning drop-in group, is that these people come in through the door and will say very little, and will just sort of work their way through a box of tissues, maybe for the first couple of meetings. We break, we have a cup of tea. They might have, a little chat with you on the way out, but they come back the following week and you think, well, okay, so, it's hard to judge, but you must have done something for them to want to come back. And then over a period of time, you see, if you sit in this seat and you look and you think, that's fantastic to see that, because you see these people who you can then sit back and not have to be the voice. They automatically just feel comfortable enough in sharing with a new member how, oh yeah, well, this was me, I was like that, yeah, and this is what's happened to me. And they all look out for one another, and we've said it and we say it time after time to them that you don't actually realise, but the peer support in this room, you think you're coming here to get help and support from us, which in essence yet you are, but you are actually helping other people in the process. And I can't put that into words. That is really remarkable to see, especially when you know how much it's took and what this journey is like. You know, it's coming up to 6 years for us, and yet we're in a lot, you know, in a much better place than we were with the help and support that we've had here. But we still have those days, Mick, where, you know, you hit rock bottom and you feel, oh, you know, I thought I was doing so well. But, you know, we all say to one another, but you are doing so well, because, you know, measure those gaps between the last time you felt as bad as this. And that's all I could say, is that they lessen, so you have more of the good days in between the bad days. Yeah.
Jo, can I ask you about, in terms of the support services that are here, and we've talked about, you know, the emotional response that people can have, but so much of the conversation, many of the conversations we've had have been not just about that, but also about the practicalities of dealing with losing someone to suicide. And I imagine in and of itself that can place a huge burden on someone emotionally, to have to deal with coroner's inquests, bank details, tenancy agreement, all of those things which will come around, which of course nobody's planning for those moments, are they, in life? And yet when they come at you, they come in big red envelopes with very important must take action marked upon. And I guess being there for the practical things has been really useful as well for so many people.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many people that do find themselves, because they may have lost the main breadwinner of the house, so yet that they find themselves, you know, financially in a terrible state. We have got here in Paul's Place an advocacy worker who can help with that kind of advice for them. But it's a terrible situation that, you know, people have had to either move house, or, you know, they've lost their jobs because they can't return to their job, because the job may entail working with people with mental conditions who may possibly be suicidal. So their own life, they can't continue with that. Again, with the financial side, because the main breadwinner might be the person that they've lost, they may well lose their home as well. It's a minefield of different things that can happen when you lose someone to suicide. It all depends, obviously, who it is you've lost within your family, but it can be totally devastating to that family that's left.
Is that, Kathy, the difference, do you think, between I'm going to say a normal counselling service and something like Paul's Place? That actually that sense of community, you know, someone could sit down and you know, you could have all the degrees under the sun, like about how to help someone with their emotions, but actually those practicalities, if you don't know or understand them, or you've no means of fixing, you know, how is someone going to pay their rent or their mortgage for the next few years? It's impossible to provide those answers, and the only way to find the solutions, I guess, is within that community or the people who've had that experience. And that's so much more, isn't it, than a straightforward counselling service.
Absolutely. And I think that was one of the main things that really, you know, blew me away. Really, after doing assessments, I was very much, you know, we're offering therapy, we're offering this, offering that, and actually if somebody's stuck in that sort of thing, like Jo says, can't pay the mortgage, can no longer live in that house, whatever it may be, nothing's going to move you on until those type of things are addressed. And people don't have the energy to you know, pick up the phone to the benefits office or the housing or whatever. And like Jo's just said then about the advocacy worker, that's why we acted quickly. We said we need somebody who can step in and help people, and that is one of our volunteers. You know, she had the expertise. She actually was a service user and came through and said, I'd like to now start helping people with these practical issues, writing the letters, making the phone calls, working on people's behalf. And that opened, you know, really opened our eyes. And again, like you say, it is that community thing. Let's all come together to look at all these different issues. It's not just about one, you know, fixing one thing sort of thing.
Now, here's a silly question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You mentioned before the idea of, you know, people skipping out of the door in 20 weeks' time. Of course, no one's literally skipped out of the door, but you must have seen people after a series of sessions here leave this building or say, you know what, I might not be back next week, we've got a couple of things on, or you know what, I'll come back in. What was that like, Agnes? What sort of experience have people had in those circumstances, and how did that make you feel?
Yeah, it's seeing that transformation in people. And it does vary, as Kathy quite rightly says. Yet some people, you know, at 20 sessions may think that they're no further on. They will be further on, much further on than they can imagine, but will probably still need that helping hand. And I think that's where like the support group, the peer support group, really sort of, you know, comes into its own with that. But there's been people here who've come for, you know, had so many sessions of counselling, may have had, you know, 8, 10, 12 sessions of counselling. I've then decided that, okay, yeah, I've spoken to somebody, I've got an awful lot out, maybe come into the group, maybe had 2, there's one man in particular, had 2 or 3 meetings here, and just sort of announced at one of the meetings, and he said, it's been really lovely to, you know, meet all of you. It would have been nice to have met you under different circumstances. Thank you for, you know, all the support, and I wish you all well. And for me, I'm taking a step back now. I just feel I'm in a better place. And he has gone on, he stays in touch, and he's gone on to take up quite a big role in fundraising for us on a regular basis, during golf tournaments with some of his son's friends who they used to all play golf with. So things like that are lovely, and to hear things like that and to think, well, isn't that lovely? And to see that he's now not basically taken the place of his son within this golfing group, but they've all sort of like rallied round and they sort of like look after him. And in all of that, they've been in on a number of occasions, as I say, and fundraised us. And even in the earlier part of this year, we're in touch to say, look, you know, last year with the pandemic, everything fell a bit flat, but please don't think that we've given up on you. As soon as we're able to, we're back out there again for Paul's Place. So things like that, it's just lovely, Mick, really is.
And that sense of community, I mean, it's come up a few times just recently, actually, on the programme, where people have spoken about that sense that they're invested in something. And it might be, you know, golf, or it might be a sport. But I guess you've created something here as well, that people feel like there's a place that they can go with faces that they recognise. And I feel like I'm going to start singing a theme tune to, is it Cheers, or one of those sorts of programmes. But actually, you can't plan for that, can you? I mean, you can do your best to create that environment, but that just has to be organic, doesn't it? And you've obviously created the environment where that's been allowed to grow, that sense of community, and that sense that, well, I've always got Paul's Place.
Exactly. The people who come to, you know, after they've had the sessions, they come to group, they realise that everybody in the room, or as at the moment because of the pandemic on social media, everybody has been through exactly the same thing. Everybody's lost somebody to suicide. So it's like a family. It's a shared experience. They know that anything that they say within the room, no one's going to criticise them for it. No one's going to laugh at them. Think that, you know, things that they're saying that they think, or emotions that they have, that it's very strange, because we've all been there at some time, or we will be there sometime in the future. It depends where you are on this journey. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it is a community, and yet there's lots of friendships that have, you know, sort of cropped up from the different group sessions. We've also got a trek therapy that we do now, which is fantastic. We go out to different places, socially distanced, of course, but we found that to be absolutely, you know, you're getting fresh air, lovely scenery, and, you know, the members of the group there, where you can be with them again, as obviously with a distance, but it's just wonderful to actually be in their presence again.
I was going to ask, Kathy, I'll end this one at you. If obviously the QAF, do we call them a QAF? We'll call it the QAF, the award that you've received. Obviously, assessments and the way people have gone about them will be a little bit different this year. But Kathy, if somebody did just walk into this building during one of those sessions, how long would they need to be here before they got a sense that it was a session about suicide bereavement? Because I imagine your topics are far-reaching. I imagine that the emotional scale as well that people are on, you know, where people are, you talked about going, Agnes, before through, you know, a box of tissues, but I imagine there's also a lot of laughs as people sort of find a way to negotiate emotionally what it is that they're going through. Is it immediately obvious that it's a suicide prevention session?
No, it's not, Mick, not at all. I mean, that's the wonderful thing, you know, the laughter that does come, you know, cry together, laugh together. I mean, I tell this story of I was not in the group and I was seeing one of our other clients out, and we work with problematic gamblers, and as I came to take him out the front door, the laughing and the cackling that was coming from this room, and he said to me, you know, oh, what's going on there? And I said, oh, it's our suicide bereavement group. And I thought, that doesn't really sound quite right, but to me that was music to my ears, because I thought every single one of them I've met, and I know at a time when they couldn't lift their head up, you know, for crying, and to hear that laughing, but that real shared laughing where people feel like we're actually allowed to do this in here, because, you know, what might other people think of us if, you know, I've lost like my son or my brother to suicide and I'm hysterically laughing, you know, people maybe can be judgmental. Here it doesn't, and to hear that laughter is wonderful. So no, I don't think people initially would think, I mean, some of the discussions we have in here I couldn't even repeat, but you know, it really is, you wouldn't think it was a suicide group. Obviously we do have our serious times, but that's just fantastic to hear.
Well,
we do.
That was good, almost a politician's answer there. Almost was there. Almost was. Agnes, you mentioned all the volunteers you have here, but obviously you as the co-founders of Paul's Place. Who gets the award? Who puts it on whose mantelpiece? Is there a shelf you've got in mind?
Definitely Kathy. As you can see here, Kathy was presented, weren't you, with the award from Hope University. Yeah. That was the first time that they gave there. Was that 2 years, 3 years now?
Years ago.
I keep saying 2 years when it should be 3, because we've lost that whole year during the pandemic. So we have got that one there. So whether it stays in here, it can join. Okay. So it'll be displayed here for everybody to see. And quite rightly so, because it's the volunteers, you know, which is why we're getting the award for the work that's done here. So it's probably going to stay on there, I would imagine. I'm happy with that.
What does it mean in terms of the future? When we first spoke, you were setting up Paul's Place, you wanted everyone to know about it. Then you secured this incredible amount of funding which allowed you to roll that out. And it's almost the third part of the trilogy is that's recognised on a national level with this Queen's Award, which is great. But of course it can't be the end. It can't be we've got the awards now, we've got the gong, let's shut the door. So, Joe, what next? What does it mean to you in terms of receiving it? But then also, what does it mean to you in terms of what it might inspire, if you like, in terms of moving forward?
To my mind, it gives us credibility, because obviously, we were awarded the National Lottery funding, which has been fantastic, but that was only for a period of 3 years. We've only got just over a year of that left. So obviously we're looking for funding. So we're hoping that maybe some, you know, companies, firms, what have you, even individuals, if they wish to donate or come on board, then, you know, maybe the likes of the Queen's Award give us more credibility to them to see that we are, you know, a sort of, a worthy cause that they could come on board with and help us out, because we do need funding for the future.
We certainly do need to secure some kind of, you know, real hard funding going forward, because just as an example, we've just had obviously a long weekend with a 3-day break, and if we've received a referral for people asking for support on each of those days that we were closed. That's not unusual. Another thing that we find is that at one time you would maybe find somebody who would apply to us for support just as a single person out of a family, and sometimes other members of the family would come on board, you know, as and when. We're now receiving requests for support from, you know, 3 and 4 members in one family at one go. So, you know as well as I do, Mick, you follow, you know, the local press and everything. There doesn't seem to be a week go by where you don't hear of like suicides locally. We featured on that with the Liverpool Echo on the support side on every article they cover. So our name is getting out there, and that is great, because otherwise I just don't know where these people would end up. So I am so thankful for that. But the reality of that also is the effect that it has on us financially. You know, we don't want to start having to say, oh yeah, well you can, but you know, can you look at how much you can pay? And we want to be able to just say, yeah, come along, you need that support, we understand that. And you know, we don't want to also, by the same token, say, yeah, you can, but you know, 6 months, 9 months down the way, you know, the waiting list, we can maybe slip you in, you know, and you can have fortnightly sessions. It has to be about when people are ready and they feel that they want to access and they feel that they're ready to access support. It has to be readily available, because I go back to this all the time with, you know, physical illness, you know, all right, yeah, during the pandemic, I will say, hand on heart, a lot of it has had to be sort of scaled back, hasn't it? So people haven't been able to get things addressed as they should with physical illness. But by God, with mental illness, you know, it just gets put on the back burner all the time, and people get fobbed off, or, you know, yeah, you can have this, but you can only have 6 sessions. It doesn't scratch the surface with suicide bereavement to have 6 sessions.
I think sometimes, Kathy, that we're probably guilty in this part of the world of seeing a name, recognising a name, particularly when it's associated with different topics and subjects, and then presuming that because we know about them, that their future is secure, that they're always going to be there. And I think we've got to be mindful of the fact that's not the case. They're there in the first place because they fought for the right to be there. But of course, the fight doesn't stop when you arrive, if you like. And that's something we've always got to be mindful of, not just for services like your own, but services right across the country, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, we got that award and great, you know, recognition for our volunteers and for everything that everybody's done. But for us, that's not about taking our foot off the brake and saying, wow, we've got that. This is like really, you know, vamping it up, because we know our lottery funding has got another 12 months. We missed out on so much fundraising last year because people couldn't do it. You know, lots of people were doing things for us. So we've really got to keep out there, because we're determined this service will continue. It is so needed. And, you know, we've got to keep going out there, getting our name known. This gives us the credibility as well to say, look, we are a fantastic service. We can offer this, but we need help along the way as well. So for us, it's onwards and upwards. We just carry it on. You know, we've got definitely to.
Just tell us, we're speaking face to face, and for people who obviously can't see it, I'm holding my microphone on the end of a very long stick. So if anyone notices slightly longer pauses between questions and answers, it's because we're just trying to make sure my fishing rod is at the correct length. When are you hoping to be able to sort of reopen services, Joe? Have you got a date in mind? People are talking about the 21st of June, but I'm wary of even mentioning that because it seems subject to change, sort of hour by hour. Is there a day where things return to, quote, normal?
We have discussed this, and we're hoping that maybe we can move towards the end of the year, that we will start having group sessions again in this room. At the moment, as I say, you know, things are online, and it'll stay like that until things are safe. We've got to make sure that the people who come in are safe. So I think probably the end of the year we may be a bit more nearer to the meeting people again. Yeah.
Well, guys, congratulations on everything you've achieved so far. Congratulations on your latest recognition as well.
Thank you.
Amazing that a letter from the Queen, the trophy which will sit on this coffee table and will look absolutely resplendent next to the Liverpool Hope University Prize that Kathy received as well. We wish you all the best. Obviously, keep us posted with what you're up to at Paul's Place, and we'll continue to signpost this service as well to our listeners. So thank you for your time too.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Mick.
you very
Thanks
much.
a lot.
Thanks, Mick.
Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed this week's podcast. Thanks for checking out Mental Health Monday. My name is Mick Coyle. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Mick Coyle. You can also find me, Mick Coyle, on Facebook as well. Don't forget, if you want to speak to somebody about your mental health, you can do so. The Samaritans, free to call on 116 123. You can find mental health services where you are. Just look for the Hub of Hope. Type in your postcode. It'll find those mental health services close to you. And for support in a crisis, you can text SHOUT to 85258. That's if you're experiencing a personal crisis, you're unable to cope and need support. Shout to 85258. That's a text line. Do get involved in those services. In an absolute emergency, always remember the number to call is 999. Thanks for downloading the podcast this week. We'll be back next week with more Mental Health Monday.